Well, hello there. And yes, it is the second week of baseball season. And, I love baseball, played baseball for years. So, where I'm standing right now in my baseball, the Braves are not doing that great. The Cubs are not doing that great. The White Sox, hmm. Oh, well, I tell you how well I am doing. I am leading 6-4 with Haunted Wax Museum players. My Bachelor's Grove Ghouls are 6-3 right now. Grand Slammers Breakfast Club is 21-7. Star City's Green Arrow is 11-8 for the week. Arkansas Ghost Hunters is 12-1 for the week. I am losing only in the Bayou Blues. I'm 6, they're 10, so that's the only one I'm losing in. Evolution, after the movie Evolution, if you've ever seen that, the comedy, I do recommend it. I am leading 264.5 to 206.5. So that's where I am with baseball. So enjoy the season, enjoy the sport like I did for many years. And Carol Garcia, hello. And Butterfly Utterly Insane Productions, LLC, says hello. I believe they might be somewhat involved with Joe. We'll get him to talk about it in just a few minutes. Let's go ahead and go with our pictures of the lady. Yes, the New Orleans Paranormal Society. They do have tours down in New Orleans most days of the week. Go down to New Orleans, you want a ghost tour, contact them. Next picture, right here, their phone number, their address. They will get you, sign you up for a tour. They do not put you in front of a building and say this building is haunted. They do not take you in the building for 5 minutes and say there's a ghost in here. Look around, but we got to move on. No. They'll put a piece of paranormal equipment in your hand, take you to a place, say this is haunted, have fun. And you can sit there and do ghost hunts during right there on the tour. They'll give you a few hints. They'll show you how to do it. But you'll be sitting there doing some ghost hunting, not some ghost looking or touring. 2 different locations at night. And you'll be in each location for an hour or so doing some ghost hunting. And they will put you a ghost in there. I've been to their locations. One of them's behind a voodoo shop, an old slave quarters. Another one is the Andrew Jackson Hotel. I personally have been on their tours and have been in the places outside of their tours to these places. They're both amazing places. They both are haunted, and you will have a paranormal experience. Do not taunt the spirits, please. I know you have the opportunity to prove your manhood and taunt the spirits. They will come back at you. This is New Orleans. You don't taunt the spirits in New Orleans. And let's go ahead and show what else New Orleans Paranormal Society has got going on. It's a little dinky Paracon starting July 31st. If we can roll that footage, please. Those of you who didn't get the gist of that, because it is a quickie, New Orleans Paracon it is opening for business. They are taking tours, and they will put you in front of a ghost there at the Paracon. Our very own Electriana Terry Brown will be in that slave quarters behind the voodoo shop. It will be broadcast live right here on All Access Network TV. I will be there. Several of the other Gwen will also be there, and you'll see her a little bit later. And of course, Lee will be there leading everything, leading the investigation. But that doesn't have that many openings left. If you want to ghost hunt Electriana, please go ahead and purchase your package now. The RIP package is sold out. I'm sorry, too late. Some of the other packages are available. Please check the website, NewOrleansParacon.com, for availability, and go ahead and pay for your ticket and your whatever package is you want. They have a huge variety. If you got a lot of money to spend, you can have your ghost hunt and with a top notch person in the field, the haunted collector himself, John Zappas, or you can take a lesser package with one of the other guests. So there's playing packages, plenty. Hello, Blaine. There's playing packages that will fit your budget, but you need to check them out because some of the packages are sold out. So you want to get the package of your choice. You might want to get it now. All right, go ahead and let's get this show on the road. Please open the door, Sean. All right, here you go. Welcome to the show, everybody who's up there, down there, around there, watching in delay, watching 2 or 3 weeks from now, watching on YouTube, watching on Facebook, watching on All Access Network TV. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Len Dorman. We're going to bring out our guest right now. He's been waiting patiently. And here he is. I think he'd rather be calling him Insane Joe. He's the man with the hat tonight. Insane Joe. Here we go. Bring him on in.
Hello.
How you doing, Joe?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Now, I don't believe you and I have ever talked much before.
Hello, Janet. I had to say that.
Yeah, Casey also says hello.
Oh, hey, Tom.
And this is Tom's World. Says, hey, hey. Joe Aldrich says hello. So, Joe, I don't know a whole lot about you. So, can you go ahead and tell everybody who maybe like me doesn't know a lot about you, about yourself, how you got started and what you're up to?
Well, in 1994, December 4th, I was fighting for my life. I had leukemia. It's a form of blood cancer. So, and it wasn't very good prognosis. They said I wasn't going to live to see Christmas that year. And I proved them all wrong. But during that time, I had a couple of out of body experiences. um, and so it kind of made me keep an open mind, because of what I saw, and not to be too specific, but I had an out of body experience, and I saw my mother in the waiting room having she was at that age where she had heart problems. So they were like tending to her because here's her oldest son in the ER on his deathbed. They said there's nothing they can do. Is what it came down to because I had to survive what they called plasmapheresis, if I said that right. Plasma is a big machine. They cleaned my blood, the white blood cells out of my blood, and then they put it back in. It kind of like a transfusion, but with your own blood. And if I was able to survive that, they could go on. And but they didn't think I was going to survive that, but I did, obviously. So you know that tended to make me believe in a lot of things and keep an open mind. I think anything's possible. I tend to say that a lot. Yeah, recycling my blood. Yeah, but it was pretty new at the time when they did this on me. It was a big machine, very loud, and it was like cleaning it more, like cleaning it than recycling it, because they had to get the white blood cell counts down, and that was the only way to do it. Because the white blood cell counts were so high, that's what was killing me. See, because when I found out, I thought I had pneumonia, and I kept passing out, and I called 911, and they couldn't get uh, blood pressure or a pulse if I stood up. They could only get that, and it was very low when I was laying down. So, uh, it was a rough, rough path, but I survived it. I had to go through a bone marrow transplant and all of that. But during that course, because of what I saw in my, afterlife experience or whatever, because I was like floating above my body and they were working with paddles on me. But what I saw in the waiting room and then have all that get told to me when I come to, yeah, mom's not here right now. She's being worked on in another room. That's what my brother told me and stuff. And it's like, wow, that was real. It wasn't just a dream. Yeah, you sometimes when stuff like that happens, you might think it's a dream, but it was real. I mean, what I saw and the way I saw it, it was obviously real because my brother told me what happened so that I didn't, start asking where my mom was. Because at the time it was just my brother, my stepfather, and my dad in there, you know, and she was nowhere, but my mom was like, for me, as a mama's boy, I grew up a mama's boy because my dad was an alcoholic, you know. So I was real close. My mom and I were like best friends. I'd tell her anything. So,
So
that was a rough time.
obviously this got you into the paranormal.
Yeah, it did. It made me believe more and believe that anything's possible. I had a fascination with it for a long time after that because, I was always looking for answers. It was part of my nature because I went to school to become a cop, but I never made it. All right, I had, life happens, real life happens. I got
Oh
knocked
yeah.
down with cancer, and, the only thing they're going to let me do is a desk job, and I didn't want to do that. But I was a security officer for many years, and I worked for one of the oldest law enforcement companies in the world, Pinkerton, you know. And so, with that investigative experience, it kind of helps when you're out investigating in the field. You keep an open mind, you ask questions, even the most common questions, even if you think you got it answered, it might not be the answer, you're looking for, So I think that helps me, you know, to ask questions and be open minded, So all those experiences help me, and I've got nothing better to do. I'm disabled now. I'm lucky anybody'd hire me, in the first place, at my age. But I did have a lot of fun afterwards. I drove cab for 4 years in Madison, and let me tell you, that in itself was kind of some fun stories came out of there.
Anything paranormally happened to you in the cabbie business?
No, no, more like I ended up with a couple of famous people in my cab, you know, here and there. There was a Kiss concert,
Oh,
and I worked after the Kiss concert was over. I worked it into the morning, and I ended up at a hotel to pick up three people and take them back to the where the venue to what was in the basement. And there, I had Ace Frehley in the back of my cab with two roadies. And here's when I get under the garage. Gene Simmons was like tapping his watch and tapping his boot on the, like, come on, you guys are late. We got to get on the road to the next gig.
yeah. Let's not keep Gene waiting. He's a pretty good sized man.
Yeah, and the whole thing was it was like a $20 cab ride, and they ended up tipping me 50 on top of it. You
Well,
know,
didn't Ace? Didn't he pass away just a few months ago?
I don't know. I didn't see that one. Maybe he did.
Hmm.
This was like back in 2001. I had I haven't worked or anything since the last time I worked was 2008. You know,
In the cabbie business, I've heard stories from different people that's been in that business. They say everybody's got a story. It's crazy. I've never done it myself. I've often looked at it, so that might be fun to do. It's never got the chance.
well, I always had money in my pocket. That was it. That was the I worked for a company where it was like worker owned and operated. So cab drivers got a percentage of the meter. We didn't get, but we got to keep all our tips. I got tips every day when I was working. So I had like 50, 60, sometimes 100 or more during the week, and 300 plus on the weekends in tips alone. So the money was good. you know but the heartache part of it, I don't know if I'd call it heartache, but the stress of the job, because you get road rage really easily, uh, and some of the morons you get in your cab are sometimes not worth the money. you know
I got you. When did you do your first paranormal investigation?
we did that in 2019.
Okay.
It was March of 2019. We went out to Sanatorium Hill in Madison.
Okay.
It was it's like a government building now, like Department of Welfare or Workforce Development or something like that. It's all their offices. But in the early 60s or before that, it was like a TB hospital. And I got stories from somebody that worked there that told me that every time they went down into the basement to smoke a cigarette, they'd hear noises. And one time they had an old wooden, the older wheelchairs are made out of wood.
Right.
And she said it was in the in this one hallway, where they put all this old hospital furniture and stuff. And he's like, she said it just come rolling out. Scared the, she said her and her friend just went running back upstairs as fast as their legs could carry them.
Oh, wow.
I never was able to get into the building though, because of all the government red tape you got to cut through. I tried, but we did go onto the property and survey the outside. And more or less, that was kind of like a debunk because I wanted to prove that what this YouTuber showed was just a person walking across the field at night. Because, you got to, it's like you got to kind of know your location and your surroundings.
Right.
And I grew up there. I used to sled down this hill when I was young, because it sits on top of a big hill in Madison. And I used to slide down that hill and stuff, but I knew the area so well. I says, I'll bet you that somebody that lives up behind the woods, they cut through the woods and cut through the yard to get to the only store that's open after 10 o'clock at night. The PDQ that's down on Northport. And sure enough, I reacted that same thing, and it looked exactly the same because of the lighting.
Janet Ramsey has a
Yeah.
question for you. You see it?
Yep, I would go in. My curiosity would always get the best of me. I don't have, I'm not going to say like somebody I know that, yeah, I got a fright response, or flight response, but I ain't going to run off of anything. I hear somebody scream, I'm going to go investigate and see what it is. Maybe they need help, but I see something coming down behind me like a bat, I'm out of there. Man, I hate those things. I used to work at Railvac, and at night you got this very narrow way to walk down, and I had to walk down there as a security guard, and there would be hundreds of bats on the walls.
Oh, wow.
And the only way to keep them on the walls was taking the mag light out and shining it down that, but every now and then they get a little gutsy and they take off and kind of flick you on the back of, I was always wore a baseball cap, that said security on it.
Right.
So they didn't get caught in my hair or anything. I was always afraid of that. But yeah, I hate things that fly around my head. That would drive me nuts. If I saw Bigfoot out in the woods, I'd probably be frozen in, awe. Not to run away, but I'd be frozen in awe, and I'd probably miss my opportunity to get a picture. And
that could be why all the pictures of Bigfoot are blurry.
Yeah.
People freeze for a couple of seconds and try to get their camera up, and their hands are shaking so bad they can't take a decent picture.
Well, you saw a big furry creature like that out in the woods, and you knew for sure that it wasn't somebody in a costume or something. You're like, I don't know if I should move, run. Is it going to chase me? So I'm going to just stand here and freeze and not pose a threat.
Right. And some animals have that, like a dog, that chase instinct. If they see you running, they're after you.
Well, yeah, because they smell fear.
Right.
That's what they say. I don't know if it actually, there is a scent that you give off that, I don't know, but, yeah, they can tell if you're afraid. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, for your information, I also for 2 or 3 years worked for Pinkerton.
Did you?
Yes, I mainly did security at Auburn football games.
Wow.
Back in the 80s, they had the contract, and got some wild stories of being up there in the fan section. Nobody else would take it.
up here on the wall.
There you go. Officer of the Month,
July 1991.
1991. There you go.
That's when I worked for him. Well, that was around the time that I worked for him.
Okay,
You
Carol
know,
Garcia's got a big statement here. Let's see. Daughter and I recently did an investigation. The location had bats, so when they flew near us, we started laughing and moved so much they were able to follow us, which made us laugh even more. True. They will follow you because they're actually bugs that's following you.
yeah, you see the bats that are around here are harmless. I mean, they're fruit bats.
Right. They eat bugs.
They eat bugs. Yeah, that's why they cling to the walls under the lights, at night,
Right.
you know.
Sometimes I see them outside because we have out here in the country, we are supposed to have at least one big outside overhead light. Oh, I was reading Casey's big post here. Running back around, he got to ICU. Okay. See in that corner over there. Huh. So she's had her own little out of body
Yeah,
experience.
yeah. See, and see, I when that happened to me, I didn't believe it right away. Like I said, I thought it was a dream. Your body is in so much stress. I thought I went into like a comatose state or something and was dreaming. But when I got out of, when they brought me to and stuff, my brother's sitting there crying and stuff, and he's like, I'm glad you're back, but Dad and Mike and I are here still, but Mom's in a room next to you because she had an episode.
Wow. Okay.
And I
Sean.
knew what that meant because, my mom was diabetic and had heart problems for many years. So, I mean, we've taken her to the hospital and they've had to give her shots and we've done that. So we knew what it was all about. So it's all you had to do was say she had an episode. And that's exactly what I saw going on out in the waiting room.
You remember Greg Cost, don't you?
The name sounds familiar.
Put his first post back up, Sean. Haven't seen Joe since we were all out in southwestern Iowa
Oh
at a Harvard
yeah,
school. Do you remember the
yeah,
name of the
our
school?
school. We were all at Far School together, and uh, we did the oh music. The day the music died, we were at the crash site, Buddy Holly crash site.
Buddy Holly.
Yeah,
Buddy Holly, the Bopper, and Rich Ballas.
Yeah, we did. We had some weird stuff happening there too, but yeah, that school was. Oh man, that school was extremely haunted. Uh, that was kind of a strange place from the get go. Things were happening before we could even get uh, equipment set up and recording things.
That's when a lot of stuff actually happens. You're in there trying to set equipment up, and you got paranormal stuff happening all around you, and nothing to record it with.
Right. And when we first arrived at that, it was my wife was with me. She usually is because she does all the driving. But her, I had to bail out of there like within the first 5 minutes and go outside and sit in my car for a second or two to get because I started feeling really sick to my stomach and all this when I walked into the school. So I had to gather myself, go outside, gather myself, and then walk back in. But that place had some weird, we had I had a guy that worked with me at the time, and he had set up all of his equipment, and he kind of provoked one of the spirits,
Oh,
and he couldn't get into his laptop no matter how much he tried. Every password he used, it was like, nope, not working. Then, then his camera. We had the camera in the boiling room because Dale Kazmarek was with us, and Dale had this thing going, and we were getting all kinds of activity from it, with the voices and stuff, and he provoked it. His camera went dead. His batteries went dead. He had nothing from that day. And when he got home, he tried his laptop when he got home, tapped in the password, and it worked.
wow. So they messed him up because he provoked.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah,
Janet,
the boiling room was insane. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was.
Janet had a question for you. Is that the most active location you've investigated, or is there another one?
Uh, that was probably the most active. That was the one that actually, made me feel kind of woozy. So I had to leave for a while and then come back. So yeah, I would think that was the most active, out of all the places we've been through, you know. But
Are you in contact with Greg Cost at all on Messenger?
I might be.
Uh, he's got his own show, and it seems like y'all are old friends. You ought to get together with him sometime.
So yeah, he might have been on my show once too. I don't know. I mean, I get it. I got it. I'm doing this by myself now.
Okay, I got you.
It didn't start out that way, but we'll just say that the person I had working with me we've known each other for quite a few years since I started driving when I drove cab back in the 90s. He and I kind of parted ways.
That happens.
So, you know, and not to get too political on any show, but it's more because he started spouting off. You can't do that. You're trying to be a public figure, get recognized. You don't want your political views posted all over social media so that people can find them.
Right.
You know,
I'm a believer that unless you're working with the campaign, nobody's got any business knowing how you voted. It's a
and
private matter.
right, right. You know, my views I keep to myself because all those people they start it divided this country,
Yes.
and that's not the way we should be.
No. And if you're a public figure and you go one way or the other, you're alienating half the people in the country, including half the people you want as a guest or be friends with.
Right. So I have always not done that. I post my views on other things. I post my views on my medicine. But 90% of this country feel the same way I do. Where pot should be legalized. Across the board. You know.
Okay, Greg, Janet Ramsey says,
Yeah, she was just on my show last Friday.
"Oh, cool."
Yeah.
Greg also had a comment that was relevant. He said, "Message me, Joe, and we will work it out." So if you talk
Yeah.
to him on Messenger, y'all can be back sharing your stories together at that place.
Sure. Sure.
Joe's
Yeah.
a great guy. He's a friend of the shows, and he's a friend of the networks.
Cool. Yeah, Janet Ramsey. Yeah, I've known them girls. They've been on our show quite a few times. She's actually the one that founded Ghost Buzz magazine. That article that I sent you that, with my bio
Right.
in it. They're from Michigan.
Okay.
So I've been to their place once. We went to God, we went all over in a short period of time. Um, Eloise. We went to Eloise. That's where we were.
Okay. Are you still ghost hunting now, or you kind of cut back on what you do?
I cut back on what I do um, until it gets warmer out, and then my wife and I go out and explore, whatever. I've got Paracons coming up that I'm going to just out of curiosity,
Okay.
and I love making the connections and meeting all the great people that I meet.
Want to
So,
go ahead and name them? That's fine with me.
the most recent one is the one in that's coming up is like May 9th, and it's in damn it, I don't want to. It was May 9th. It's in Wisconsin here too.
Not too far for you then.
Yeah, a couple hours. Um, Fond du Lac. Yeah, it's hosted by Wisconsin Caps. It's in Fond du Lac, May 9th.
May 9th.
So, and
If
then I
anybody
go to
listening to this going, you can meet Joe there.
and then I go to Chicago. I've been going to Chicago. The one it's hosted uh, by Jack Chavez um, every year for the last 3 or 4 years now. I've been going down to that one. So yeah. So
You know what? You know
I
Nick
travel to
Malay?
I travel to Chicago at least 3 or 4 times a year.
Do you know Nick Malay
Yep. Yep.
and Tony Zabisky?
I don't know if I know him, but I know Nick.
Nick's a great guy. He and I used to be in the same paranormal group together.
Yeah, I've met Nick quite a few times. I
Nick's a
think
great guy. His father, Paul, is a great guy too.
I haven't met him. I've met Nick. I've met what was the other guys that come with Nick usually? Tom McNichols.
Oh, Greg, are you going to that one too on May 9th? Two of y'all can get together and have a beer or something.
Yeah, I'll be there showing off my truck.
All right.
So,
So Greg's going. You can meet up with him there. That's cool. Because you just said meeting up with people is a thing. That's what these Paracons are for.
well, that's
Meeting
what
up
it
with
is.
people.
That's what it is. That's the biggest thing it's for. I mean, I go there and I walk around, okay, and I look at all the stuff that people are selling and so on and so forth. Sometimes I buy, sometimes I don't, but I look around. And then I go and I sat last year, I think it was, I had because I'm friends with the guy that did the one in Chicago. I became friends with him. I get tired of seeing, why can't you do something original? Everybody has to have a car and make it look like Echo One
Right.
from Ghostbusters.
Right.
And I'm thinking, and they all get to park right up front and see everybody gets to walk in and see their car. Well, I went down to Chicago and I told Jack I was coming. I says, can I park up next to the building? And he says, I'll save you a spot. So I sat out at the picnic table most of the day after walking around in there with everybody. I sat at a picnic table with a bunch of a whole group of paranormal investigators, and we were just having one hell of a conversation. It was a beautiful day outside. Well, it happens in June or July, I think that one does.
That's when Paracons are fun, when you had the impromptu panel discussions, and that's what you're talking about.
Well,
you were
it
at your
wasn't even a
picnic table
panel.
having
We were just sitting outside.
Yeah.
And there was like 10 of us at this table or close by, all talking about our experiences.
Right. That's why I say it was impromptu. It was not planned at all. It just happened. And those are fantastic to either get in on or just to watch.
Yep. I was I was not much of a public speaker until I did this. I had before I got married, I had girlfriends and they'd like want to take me to a karaoke bar, and I'm like, I don't think so. You can't get me drunk or stoned enough to do karaoke, you know. But I did this thing once, and I got some great advice from a guy named Lee Hampel. Uh, you might have heard of him from the stories of Beast of Bray Road. Okay.
Okay.
Uh, what was her name? She dubbed it. Um, Linda Godfrey wrote the book, the first book on the Beast of Bray Road, and she had the whole thing about this property with Lee Hampel. I met him anyway. He gave me some great advice because we did a little documentary on Beast of Bray Road. I've been out to the property that's been dubbed the Skinwalker Ranch of Wisconsin and stuff. And he's he sat there and said, just kind of look above and beyond everybody in the audience, and you'll get through it. Because I had to speak at a Paracon. I was a guest speaker for the Beast of Bray Road thing
Mhm.
that day, and it's like, wow. And I got through it. I was actually shocked that I made it through it.
Well, according to surveys, most Americans fear public speaking more than they fear death,
Yep, that's true. But
and it's nervous.
it was nerve wracking, but I got through it. I mean, I don't know if I'd do it again.
That was actually going to be my next question. Would you do it again?
I don't know. I mean, maybe if it's on a topic I know, like I did the Beast of Bray Road, we spent so much time on that property and had so much stuff happen to us that I didn't even. I mean, I got it all documented. It's just it's not out there for everybody to see, because it's just way too much. You know, I mean, we
Can you tell us
spent
what happened real quick? Just a quick survey.
we did an overnight investigation trying to uh there was Dale Kazmarek, myself, and my friend, and we were there, and we were doing this overnight investigation because all the trail cams seemed to catch things at 5, 6, right around sunrise, you know. So we were trying to catch this stuff on camera. Well, we were focused. We were focused on a bipedal figure in the cornfield that kind of ran right next to the property. And we Dale and I had it on his thermal, and we were looking and watching it, and the other guy went walking out into the hayfield area, it's all cut down, so, and it started following him, and then we lost track of it on the thermal. So he gets back and he tells us that something was following him in the cornfield, and he's pretty sure of it and stuff. And we're like, yeah, you had something. It was bipedal following you. We don't know what it was exactly, but And shortly after this happened, it was about getting to be about 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and you know we had all our equipment set up and everything, and the fog just rolled in out of nowhere, fast as hell and thick as hell. So we had to pack
That's
up.
weird looking to start with.
So we had to pack up because we didn't want to get the equipment damaged from the moisture.
Right.
And when we were out there with little flashlights, making sure we got everything, the fog dissipated as quick as it came in. It's like the land wanting us off the property before anything happened.
Wow, that was weird.
You know, and I haven't been able to get out there since, but that's another story. So,
Okay, there was a question Janet Ramsey had for both of us. That's what Greg says about Ray Rose in Wisconsin,
Yeah,
South Wisconsin, I guess.
South Wisconsin. Yeah.
But Janet Ramsey had a question for both of us. She said, "What do you have on your feet right now?" Not sure how that's relevant, but it's what she asked.
Why do you want to know? How much have you been drinking to ask that question?
Well, of course, Joe. Looking at your hat, I'd say cowboy boots.
Yeah, well, I'm sitting at home relaxed. I got slippers on.
You got slippers on. Well, down here, of course, we're a bit further south in southeast Arkansas than you are in Wisconsin, and this was our third straight day in the 80s.
Wow.
Yes, I mean talking about mid 80s, 83, 84, 85 degrees, and of course it's cooling off now. We did have our mini splits cranked up, but what's on my feet? Absolutely nothing. I'm barefooting it.
No, I'd be like that way too if it was like, 70s, 80s here, but it's still kind of cold and stuff outside. So, the floor's cold.
Oh, the floor's kind of warm here, actually. In my foot, I got a plastic cover over the carpeting here.
It gets cold here. But yeah, it's Bray Road, to be more specific, is in Elkhorn, Wisconsin.
Elkhorn, okay. They had a movie about, didn't Sci-Fi make a movie?
Yeah.
The Beast of Bray Road?
Yeah. Yeah, that was based on Linda Godfrey's book, I think. She was the one that broke the story on it. I mean, when I first heard it, I thought, and I drove down the road once. We drove down. It was full moon night, and it was actually, when we got there, it was thunder and lightning, not raining too much yet. And we drove down that road, and I could easily see how people's minds could play tricks on them, because there's no street lights on this road whatsoever. And it's a country road that runs for about 2.5 miles.
That makes it dark, doesn't it?
It makes it very dark. So if you see a wolf, which we have plenty of, sitting there eating roadkill on the side of, or a coyote even, and you're coming along and the headlights hit the coyote, and they're sitting there with their paws on the roadkill, right? They kind of lift their front end up and go like this. Your mind's going to play tricks on you. And the other thing that could be possible, and they say it doesn't exist, but I've heard plenty of times something doesn't exist, and all of a sudden here it is. It went extinct years ago, but here it is, living.
Right.
Is the dire wolf.
Oh yeah, the great big wolves. That's not a direct relation. It was not a big normal wolf. There was a variation there. In fact, they say that latest research says they might not have been able to interbreed.
I don't know about that either, because I believe they might have, because that would explain some of the very big wolf sightings around here,
Good.
that some people say is the beast,
Greg says the beast is picking up deer carcasses.
There is something, and I'll tell you why. Greg, that's a good point. If it was just a wolf, they would drag the deer carcass, right? A wolf would drag it by its teeth, or whatever. But this guy that owns this property, and this is one of the stories he told us, said that he put out a deer carcass that he found roadkill until DNR told him to stop doing that. But he did it one time, and the next morning it was gone, kind of chewed up and gone. But he found the carcass, and it was wedged between two trees. the trees weren't very close in, so you had to lift it up and put it down. You couldn't just drag it through and be wedged in there. Whatever did it lifted the carcass up and dropped it.
Hmm.
Because otherwise the trees were too close to wedge it that way.
Right.
You know,
So it had to come in from above and dropped
and
in.
drop it. Yeah, it's the only way. Because he showed a picture uh, of the carcass the way he found it wedged between that tree,
I think I
and
saw that picture.
that's the only thing I could think of is whatever did it lifted it up and dropped it because they couldn't if it was a canine, a normal canine, they'd be dragging it,
Right.
and they would have never been able to drag between that thin space. The trees pretty much cracked at the bottom because of the weight of the carcass. You know, no, a
Greg
wolf
says the
could
wolf
not
could not
do
do
that,
that.
right?
There's no way.
You know,
So you do personally believe there is a beast of Bay Road?
yeah, I believe there's something there that some people are seeing. You
Okay.
know,
I
you
have
know,
never had an experience with any kind of cryptid.
and and
So
in
I just.
Michigan they call it the Michigan Dog Man.
Hmm.
All right, now there in this area, I don't know about other areas, but I know like Wisconsin, the whole Great Lakes area is very rich in Native American history and lore.
Hmm.
Okay, so that leads me to believe that if they're saying it and it dates way back, hundreds of years to when it was just Indian Native Americans here, telling their stories of this beast. Hey, there's got to be some truth to it. It's got to come from somewhere because those Native Americans, they don't just tell stories just to scare the hell out of people. They tell stories because they're trying to protect people, the land, or you know. And what happens around this Bray Road area? There's a patch of land that Barnaby Jones from Wisconsin Caps named. He named the land the Skinwalker Ranch of Wisconsin because of all the stuff that does happen there, not just
Hmm.
the Beast of Bray Road.
Interesting.
So, and I believe him because what happened to us was not natural with the fog running in so fast and so thick that night and then just disappearing just as quick as it came in after we got everything. It took maybe 10 minutes for us to pack everything up.
Okay. Hang on just a second, Joe. Greg has got to go. So he's saying, nice to
Well,
see
I'll
you,
see you
Joe.
May 9th for sure.
So y'all see each other May 9th. Uh, Good night, Greg. Uh, Good luck wherever you're going. Going to bed or got to go somewhere. We'll be talking to you later, Greg. Yeah, I've never had a cryptic experience, so I just have to listen to people and go by what they say. But when you come up with pictures like that, that you got to say that's not natural.
No, it's not. And some of the stuff we've seen off these trail cams were not natural either. You know, um, I had an experience where my wife and I were driving down the highway and I don't know where we were heading, but you know how those street signs, like the exit signs, some of them can be 7 feet long, they pretty big. Well, there was a bird on top of this one, and its wingspan was more than that sign.
Oh wow.
Okay. I don't know what it was. And I've seen just about every bird that's around, Wisconsin, and I couldn't identify it.
Wow.
Because it wasn't in the. I mean, that's not the common area for the turkey vultures and the other, you know, big birds of prey to be nesting. That's just
Right.
it was an unusual spot for something like that, you know. And because I was a kid, I used to see them all the time out by Oregon, Wisconsin, on the big wooden posts. You'd see these big black birds, and they were turkey vultures and stuff. What I saw on the highway that day was not no turkey, no way. It had no color to it except the beak was yellow, the yellow color. It was all black except the beak and, well, the talons, but you couldn't see them because feathers covered up the rest of it, you know. And I wasn't quick enough, you're driving 65 miles an hour. By the
Yeah.
time you get your phone, it's too late, you
Yes.
know. But yeah, that happened once, and it's like, wow, did I just see that or what? But yeah, I've seen a lot of. I I like the cryptid field. I really have a thing with the cryptids. You know, I've tried to investigate some of them the best I could. Others, I think I debunked a little bit. Like we got one here. They call it bozo. All right,
Ozo.
yeah, it's a water serpent supposedly. All
Oh,
right,
okay.
it's in Lake Mendota. All right, which is Madison's deepest and biggest lake, right? And I went up to the point where people so called saw this thing and looked around and stuff. And the best I could come up with is they're probably misidentifying it because they see a lake sturgeon, is what they're seeing. And lake sturgeons, those things are like prehistoric looking,
Yes.
because they've been around forever, haven't changed much.
Mm-mm.
So that's what I
You're,
determined that. But then,
you're big and
and
ugly.
then you've got this one, and this one's kind of hard to to tell what it is. But we've got our own Loch Ness monster here in
Aha.
Wisconsin. Okay, well, between Wisconsin and Minnesota, it's on a lake called Lake Pepin. Okay, and the monster's called Peppy.
Of course.
And Lake Pepin is the biggest lake that there's four of them on on the Mississippi River. So I talked to a boat captain that had been doing this for, you know, giving tours of the Mississippi River for, 20 years. And he had just retired and stuff. And I talked to him about the stuff he's seen. And he's like, I've seen something. I just can't explain it, And he's like, I've seen bull sharks, come up the Mississippi, and that's been documented and stuff because they can go freshwater to saltwater,
Right.
But he says what this is was not a bull shark. He says other people have seen it. And I've staked out Lake Pepin. I have yet to see it, but I wanted to go on a boat ride because he had one of those old-fashioned paddle boats, that you'd see from the Mark Twain days.
Right.
That would have been a great, but he had sold the boat and it's in Florida now. So, but he had some great stories to tell, and if anybody would know what was on that lake or be able to tell you if it was something, a boat captain that had been doing this on that same lake for 20 years would be able to tell you what it was. But he's like, I've seen something. I can't explain it. Because I've seen just about I've seen some big fish, I've seen, the sharks, but this was not that, you know.
Well, have you got any upcoming uh investigations you're going to go on? Anything you want to check out?
Um, I mean, myself, I'd like to go back to Bray Road because I wasn't done with it, but that doesn't seem possible. But I'm looking into a couple other things. I've got the Paracon coming up in May. I want to go back out to Devil's Punch Bowl.
Good night, Janet.
So, and Devil's Punch Bowl is a really nice place to go. I just forgot to take our Skittles there as an offering. Um, there's a couple places out that way, out by La Crosse, that I want to hit this year. And one of them's, they're mostly, I found them in Chad Lewis's book. It's like Lake Meridian or something like that. There's a lake out there by the piers, and you'll be standing there. It's got something to do with a lady that drowned in the lake. You might see her if you go in and try to walk to the other side, which there's an island there. She'll pull you in, but that's kind of been debunked because Chad Lewis kind of walked to the other side. Nothing happened. But I want to know more about the devil dogs. They hear and see them there as well. You know, I've seen, well, I haven't seen anything. I've heard and saw red eyes. I've heard the growling, but this was at a different location. This was at a cemetery that sits out in the middle of nowhere. We're filming in the cemetery, and the next thing you know, I'm by the exit, and on the other side of the street, there's a dog growling, and red eyes coming out of the woods. And don't know what it was for sure. It didn't show up on our cams, but the growling did. The growling showed up on some of the audio equipment.
Oh, wow. So are you talking about trail cameras?
No, regular cameras that we had with us. We were actually in this little cemetery. It's not far from my house, investigating it. And the first time we were there, it was like after midnight, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, maybe, and all of a sudden we had a flyover, and we're like, what the fuck? It's like there's no airports close by. We're out in the middle of nowhere, and there was a flyover by a military jet at 2 o'clock 1, 2 o'clock in the morning.
That's unusual for them to be out that late at night, especially over any kind of populated area, because it wakes everybody up.
Yeah. And I caught that whole thing. It was kind of hard. You got the camera and you're looking in it. Go up like follow it around as it goes overhead. But, yeah, that was the first time we were at Eagle Road Cemetery. And we've been out there a couple of times since then and haven't really had much happen since then.
Carol Garcia has a question. Do you think that some spirits will communicate to certain people in a group and not to others at the same location?
It's possible. Some people, spirits, I feel spirits are going to be able to sense if you believe, disbelieve, or, or if you got bad intentions, it's kind of like a dog, they'll only show themselves to people they maybe feel comfortable with, or do something. But yeah, I believe that's all. And then you got the like spirits of the serial killers and that. Well, they're gonna only show themselves to people that were a lot like their victims. That's my theory of that. But
Well, I've always thought that spirits, they used to be people,
yeah,
and they'll like some people over others.
right. And they'll have a better sense. They're going to trust their. Yeah, I hate to say it, but it's like your gut. You trust your gut instinct sometimes. I trust my dog more than I trust most people. You come over to my house, my dog doesn't like you, I'm probably not going to like you. And my dog is one of the most friendly, people friendly dogs there is, because she's a purebred Siberian Husky. There's only been one or two people that she hasn't liked, and I knew that right away, anyways. But it's the same thing. You get some little punk coming in and disrespecting you in your own house. Yeah, that don't happen. But it's the same with spirits. They were people too, exactly. And they may, if it's a woman, maybe she's scared of men. So if there's a man around or something, she's not going to do nothing, or not communicate. You know, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
It's all a sense of that person, even though they may have passed on and stuff, and they're in spirit form. They're still the same. I believe they were still the same person they were when they were alive. So they carry with them, like, maybe the same fears, or dislikes, like all that stuff.
it can be a personal thing because Amelia Patrick Humphrey would talk to me because her child, uh, spoke to me, contacted me. So Amelia did. This is Bachelor's Grove. Now the only person I know she really talks to is Dale Casmerick,
Oh,
because it was
yeah,
his group that got the original photo of her, the White Lady of
yeah.
Bachelor's Grove.
You took me to that. You took me to that cemetery. That is one strange place,
Yes.
and I want to go back there and take some more pictures, and do some more, but I don't know if I can find it again.
Well, you get on the Midlothian Highway and you look for two cell phone towers.
Yeah,
You don't see twin cell phone towers very often.
no,
This is just got two cell phone towers are fenced in together, just within yards of each other. And
because
you don't see that.
we did what was it, the cemetery. There's a cemetery.
Resurrection?
It's on what is that road? I just had it the other day.
I don't remember the name of the highway there.
It goes right there
But
between the cemetery and the bar.
right.
And
You're talking about Chet's Melody Lounge.
yeah, yeah. We were at both ends of that story. We ended up at Chet's, and then later we ended up down at the Irish pub that
Irish
was
Legend.
across from that ballroom and stuff.
Right. You actually saw, if you looked at my intro, a picture of
Yeah,
the Irish Legend.
yeah, yeah. That's why I could remember the name of the pub we were in, because that was the bar. Yeah.
Carol has got another question. How did you get the name of Insane Joe?
Well, let's see. We started out and we decided to call this Utterly Insane Productions. We made a production company. And it started out as a Mark and Joe show, and we were pissing people off because we were talking about the three taboos that, you don't talk about. Religion, politics, and you know. Um, so we changed shift in 2019, and we decided I came up with insane asylum. I don't know how I came up with that. I just came up with the idea of we need to call our podcast Insane Asylum. And it was more because, well, my friend and I, when we got together, we kind of interacted and people laughed, because the interaction was funny. But it's because I just I like the idea, and we started floating around. Well, we're going to buy a straight jacket for me, and so on and so forth. And I don't know. It just came about, and I ran with it ever since. I mean, it's better than what my mom called me before she passed away. I mean, I was taken to a doctor's office one morning, and this was a little bit darker. You know how that goes.
Yes.
When you're younger, And I'm looking, and I'm driving my mom to the doctor's office. She looks over at me, and she's like, I just thought about this. You look a lot like Charles Manson. And it's like, thanks a lot, Mom. So I ran with that for a while, and I guess I just kind of came up with it, and it stuck. There's no real story to it, it's just,
You ever thought about going out there to that Charles Manson ranch out west, wherever it is?
Yeah, I'd love to. I've done a lot of research on him. I was fascinated on how the guy got so many different people to kill for him. He you might say that he's a murderer, but he didn't lay his hands on one single. He did in a way, but he wasn't there when the killings took place. He was always gone. He tied up the victim, but he didn't do anything to physically kill him. So he had all these followers thinking he was God. And it's like, are you fucking nuts? That's like David Koresh. You know who he is, don't you?
I've heard the name. I'm trying to place out
Waco.
what he did.
Waco,
yeah, there you
Texas.
go. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, on that aspect though, about the the difference between David Koresh and Manson is David Koresh was selling illegal firearms and stuff like that, and I feel you may not like me for this, but too bad. I've watched enough of the documentaries. I think the government went about it the wrong way. The FBI and the ATF and all of that went about it the wrong way. That could have been settled without the massacre.
You're probably right about that. And of course, that caused the government building to be brought down like it was with the truck bomb.
Yeah.
That was done in revenge for Waco.
Yeah. They handled that whole thing totally wrong. The FBI and the ATF say, oh, they fired first. Well, the way I looked at all the documentaries and all the old film footage, they fired first. A dog barked, and they started firing. Some trigger-happy cop decided to pull the trigger, and then it just went off from there.
It always looked and sounded too much cowboy for me.
Yeah,
when you're running something from the federal government, of course, this was back during the Clinton years, wasn't it?
I don't know. I can't remember who was president, but I remember watching it on TV because I was old enough. I'm pushing 60. Next year I'll be 60.
Next year?
Yeah, next year.
Would you believe in July, I will be 70?
Wow. You look pretty good for your age.
Oh, thanks. Don't let the hair fool you now.
Yeah, I let mine grow long. It just hasn't gone gray yet.
Mine has gone completely gray. I'm
My beard,
completely almost white-headed.
my beard went long before my hair went.
Mhm. Mine did too. And you see, mine actually beard actually reacts to a black light,
That's cool.
which gives me
I,
a weird look.
I used to, when I was younger, I remember the 80s, you know, when I was still in high school, I had my bedroom had all kinds of black light posters.
Hmm.
My my light, the only real light I had was a desk lamp, because the light bulbs in the ceiling were black lights. So all the posters, it was really cool, you know.
Yeah, I have one of those fluorescent bulbs about this long
Yeah,
that I can turn on,
yeah, I
and
have
I
those for Halloween.
my bedroom wall looked like this all the way around.
Yeah, I like the one from Scream. I
Yeah,
like that guy.
this is Larry, Curly, and Moe, by the way.
And I think I've had that or something similar to the Grim Reaper poster.
That's a popular theme. Different poses.
Yeah, but I think
But
I think I've had something similar to that when I was younger. It was a popular theme for the poster, those black light posters and stuff. You know.
a lot of this background that I have was inspired by Swinguli.
Oh, I know him.
What was his name? Rich Goss?
I can't remember. I met him once in
Yeah,
person.
he's a nice guy. I've met him a couple of
Yeah,
times.
I met him down in when I was in one of my trips to Chicago area or something. You know, and then we got somebody like him in that does the drive-in 18. Uh, uh, I can't even remember his name either, but he's kind of locally famous, like that guy. You know, and it's like, well, you know, it's all part of this. It's part of you meet some interesting people at these paracons and stuff,
Oh yes. Hmm.
and I don't think I'll ever be able to give that up. You know, the one that's coming up in May, and usually I don't do this, but I paid $100 for my wife and I to go. You know, and so that's the first time I've paid for tickets to go to a Paracon. Normally the ones I go to don't cost more than $5, to get
Right.
in, to help cover the cost of the venue, is what that is. But some people are just charging way too much for things that and I've been on disability and Social Security doesn't give you a lot
No.
to live on. And, you know, I try to help out what I can so it doesn't leave a lot for me. So I can't afford like $100 to go investigate this property again on Bray Road, which, 3 years ago or whenever it was, a couple years ago, I was told that me and my group could come on there and he wouldn't charge us. But now he's charging everybody, you know. And when they, and I don't understand that. And I had an opportunity, and this would have been a cool opportunity. You know, I go investigate the Bray Road. It was going to be myself, Dale Kazmarek, and Chad Lewis. And it's like, oh, that would have been so cool to investigate someplace with Chad Lewis. He's like a famous Wisconsin author. When it comes to Wisconsin, he's one of the most famous paranormal people, in this area. And it's like, oh, just to go investigate with that guy would have been just super awesome, you know. But it fell through because guy got too greedy.
Well, property taxes have gone up And if they own the location, they got to pay property taxes on the property. Upkeep is through the roof.
Yeah. Well, I know he bought the property as a hay farm to harvest the hay for his horses in Chicago or Illinois or wherever he lives. But, I'm not going to get into the details. I just know something happened. And it was one of those people that got their hooks in him, you know. We got a bad seed or two up here in Wisconsin when it comes to paranormal. But
I
I
think that
try
can
to
be said of
avoid
every
them.
state.
Yeah, I try to avoid them at all costs. I she did a thing on the Beast of Bray Road, and basically she was plagiarizing the book that Linda Godfrey wrote, and Linda Godfrey passed away before this happened, so there was no one to defend her. She couldn't even answer questions. She was did this whole thing on the Beast of Bray Road, and people are from the audience are asking questions, and she was like, uh, you know, pointing at somebody else to answer the question because she couldn't answer it.
Oh, wow.
And when her little thing was over with, I tried to corner her because I wanted to, after this, because I'd been there and I knew all the answers these people were, but I kept my mouth shut for the time being. And she bolted just as quick. She shows up on stage and then took off right after her thing was over, left the building, and it's like, yep.
She
But I
basically
think that
took the
person
money and
got
run.
there. Well, she did a Beast of Bray Road convention in Elkhorn, had it at a church. The food and everything was donated, including the church. She charged 45 or $50 a person, and from what I heard, it wasn't even worth it.
Oh,
You
wow.
know, and then she charges for she's all about making money, and I think she got her hands in the guy that owns that property to help him make money too. And that kind of sucks.
Yeah. I've run two events myself, and all I wanted to do is break even on the money.
Well, yeah, I understand that. I mean, I can understand paying for this, paying for that, but this guy makes a lot of, you know, I I just don't get it sometimes. People just get too greedy, you know, and it's not worth my time anymore.
Yeah,
You
on
know,
on one of them, it was a city-owned park inside Chicago, but it had a group that ran the area called it Camp Douglas Restoration Society, and they sold pins for $5 to raise
yeah,
money.
yeah,
If you go in there and you tour the area, they'll say you're paying for $5, and you can say you were there. So what I did, I asked them for some pins, and they actually gave me a whole fistful of pins. Anybody who bought a ticket to the investigation that night, I gave them a pin, and that showed me if they had a pin on their hat, their chest, or whatever, that showed they'd paid.
hmm
And I knew, okay, they paid for it because I gave them that pin. And what I did off the ticket, for each pin that I sold for the number of tickets, I gave them $5 of the money, paying for the pin,
that's pretty
which
good.
raised quite a bit of money for them because I had quite a few ticket sales,
Right.
and that was more money in one night than they usually raised in a month.
Well, see, it's things like that I can understand. Because building like let's take Eloise for example. Building like Eloise, that takes a lot of work to maintain that building and keep it structurally sound so that people can tour it. You know, and outside of the paranormal investigations that go on, they've got other events that go on, and they happen. I mean, we happened to be there during the summer last year or the year before, and they had like a concert going on in the parking lot. They were setting up for a concert. You know, So they had other things to raise money. I can see raising the money to keep a building and to keep a location open. But then there's these people that do it just for the sake of being greedy, because the prices are so outrageous that it's more than just, 125 or $150 for an hour. You know, that's greed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that, you know, that's just too much.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to ask yourself why you win the paranormal field. And I think you answered that already. It's for your own knowledge,
Yeah. I
like
mean,
me.
I want to get truthful answers to the questions. I don't want the government covering it up all the time. Like I was a big fan of Jesse Ventura when he was doing that. He did that show on TV, you know, uh, uncovering conspiracy theories and
Right.
stuff, right? And man, I saw
The
him
governor up
walk.
there.
He just walked right into the FBI like it was nothing, and they're like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I'm Governor Jesse Ventura from Minnesota," and all that. That guy now, from what I understand, is not even living in the United States and hiding from our government because he got too close to the truth on some things. He went down and he pushed the limits on Area 51, at the gates, and he had the guards come down, and confront him when he was there, and stuff. I saw that man do a lot of stuff trying to uncover answers, you know, and sometimes the government just doesn't want to give them up, you know. But he had a lot of interesting shows, and I loved watching him. But because of our government, he's no longer on TV. He's in hiding. Yeah,
It paid almost $700 to investigate in Florida
that's
for 3 hours.
ridiculous.
Yeah, $700 should be a hell of 2 night investigation where you spend the night at the place.
You know, that's just, I mean, I get it. Yeah, some of that's just like you get so many investigators at 700 a pop, and they're going to make a fortune. That's more than enough money to meet reservation, restoration and maintenance and all that stuff. That's profit.
I didn't pay that when I stayed at the Andrew Jackson Hotel for 2 nights, and I stayed there, so I was allowed to investigate the Andrew Jackson Hotel in New Orleans for 48 hours, and I didn't pay that.
Candyman. I'm sorry. Every time I think of New Orleans, I think of that movie Candyman.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of my favorites. You know.
Oh, talking about some people that can't exaggerate things. There is a haunted hotel down there, and the owner said if you've heard of the Hatchet Man in New Orleans, he was supposedly cut up his victims with a hatchet.
Mm.
They say they know who he was,
Oh
and
yeah.
nobody does. Nobody knows who that was.
No, I think when it comes to people like that, you can have theories, but you can't have proof. I mean, look, they're
Right.
still trying to figure out who Jack the Ripper is.
Right. There's
You
all
know,
kinds of theories.
all kinds of theories, but eventually none of them pan out. You
Right.
know,
Well, Jeff Mudgett come up with the theory that it was his ancestor, H. Holmes, because they've got the receipts where he paid for a voyage to London before Jack the Ripper struck the first time, and they got him coming back to the United States from London after the murders in London stopped, the Jack the Ripper murders.
right?
But that doesn't prove he did it. It just
No,
proves
it
he was
doesn't
there.
prove it. It just proves that he was there. You know, I
There
mean,
was a million other people in London at the time.
you know, that's like trying to prove who DB Cooper is. You
Yeah.
know, that was another case that fascinated me because in the 80s, a boy found some money and washed up along the beach or buried in the beach. And it was money from the DB Cooper heist. And they, they like had all these theories on him because whoever it was obviously had to know what he was doing to jump out of that plane.
Yes.
Okay. With the stairs down. So even though they narrowed down some of those people, they still couldn't prove that they were the ones that did it.
Right.
They may look like the sketch or similar to the sketch, but nothing was able to be proved because too many years have gone by. I mean, it's a fascinating case.
Yes, it is.
You know, I mean,
Well, everything we just mentioned are fascinating cases.
yeah,
H.H. Holmes, uh, the murders down in New Orleans, the Hatchet murders, the Hatchet guy,
yeah,
London. They're all interesting cases.
yeah. And you just had that here. You had that case where it was what was it? The girl said Slender Man or something.
Yeah.
She was in Kenosha, or was it Racine? Either way, it was right around the same area in Milwaukee. And I seen that come up on the local news, recently because they're charging her, and or she had just been in court again or some shit like that, and it's like, the Domner. Oh my God, that case baffled the hell out of me. Why they didn't catch on the first time? They had that guy running naked through the streets, and they took him back to Domner. And it's like, are you guys stupid or what? The guy's impaired, drunk or on drugs, and he found out he was drugged, trying to get away, and you guys take him back to his captor. And you don't smell the smell that people were complaining about for days before this, from his apartment, the odors. I thought that was a stupid, I was there days after they, taped it. They still had tape off in Milwaukee. I was down there during that time after they caught him. But I'm going, yep, he ends up in prison. Somebody's going to kill him. Sure
Yeah.
enough. That's what happened. He got released in General Pop, and boom, he was done for.
There's a lot of interesting cases right now in the headlines everywhere. Is the Epstein files? Was Jeffrey Epstein actually a suicide? We have no proof. We you and I can't prove either way.
No.
But it's an interesting discussion. Or was he murdered?
Well, the thing is, you got nowadays, and this is just a theory, okay? Nowadays, you've got the mafia. They're still out there, okay?
Yeah.
And I believe that a lot of the mafia has got government ties or are willing to, do business with the government. And if, say, the government or somebody wanted him silenced, it wouldn't have been too hard to do.
No. You're talking about the mafia, and they know this, so they don't care if I say it. They own the car lot. I bought my car from the mafia. About 10 and a half years ago in Chicago, I got my 2006 Magnum from the mafia.
Well, it's just that it's probably not as publicly known about some of their business doings as it was, say, back in the 70s, in the early 80s, because I had run-ins with them for obvious reasons. I didn't know if you caught it or not, but my last name is Carvello.
Right.
Which is Italian.
Yes.
Okay. So there's in Milwaukee, there was a famous Ballesteri was a famous name out of Milwaukee. Okay, linked to the mafia, but there's mafia ties that I can, and I've had, you don't refuse them, but I can say I did. Okay, I was working at a restaurant once that was owned by my cousin Joe and Namio. No, it was Namio, not Amato. Anyway, I'm related to both. When it comes to the Madison, Wisconsin area. Anyway, he owned the restaurant. All right, that I was working at. It was a very fancy steakhouse dinner nightclub. One of those dinner club nightclub things.
Right.
And let's just say I didn't last very long because of the stuff. When the owner left, all hell broke loose. So I quit my job. And about 2 weeks later, I was working at Taco Bell down the road. So I was leaving Taco Bell and I was walking home, and it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. And the steakhouse should have been closed. All right. They closed at 10 o'clock. There were like 3 limousines standing out or sitting out in the parking lot, and guys standing next to them, obviously the chauffeurs of those cars, at 3 o'clock in the morning. And you tell me what was going on.
Mm-hmm. Nothing good happens at 3 a.m.
So anyway, I kept walking, and then I saw it again, and I got stopped. And he's like, "Who are you? You didn't see nothing." I says, "I never see nothing when I go by here, you know." And he says, "What's your name?" And I told him my name, and then they took me to somebody inside where I was talking to my cousin. "Oh, you're related to Namio, Joe, right?" I said, "Yeah, he's my cousin." And next thing is like, "How do you want to? How about you come work for us?" And I says, "How about no?" And then I had to keep saying no for like almost like 2 or 3 months before they finally got the picture. But they weren't going to take it lightly. They had nothing they could use on me anyways to kind of force me into it. But I knew there was one way in, one way out, and
Mm-mm.
I knew there was a lot going on when I was a kid, because the elders, like my grandfather, my great uncles, and stuff like that, they'd all sit around the table and they'd be talking in Italian, and then somebody come in the room and he'd stop, so you knew there was something going on there, but you couldn't quite put your finger on what it was, But that was one, yeah, that was one part of my life that always scared the hell out of me.
Anytime you're dealing with the mob is nervous.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's like, oh, you find out you're related to somebody, and it's like, Jesus Christ, I don't want to know this, it's bad enough I was related to this Irish bunch of criminals, that every time I found out I was related to them, somebody had a beef or thought I was one of them because I looked similar. My looks were similar because they were my cousins, But it's like, that's not my name. I've even got one of the cousins. He don't even go by, saying what his last name is anymore. He just goes by Jimmy K, hides the last name because they were a bad group, and it's like, man, but it did help me when I was a kid. Somebody wanted to screw with me and they were bigger than me. I'd mention that name and it's like, oh, yeah, we don't want to that kid, We're walking away.
Well, Joe, I think it's about time we started winding up. Would you believe we've been at it for an hour 40?
Wow.
Uh,
Time flies
where
when it's fun.
where can people find you if they want to contact you?
Right now on my Facebook page, the Insane Asylum Podcast.com website will be back up soon.
Okay. Are you going to get back into the podcasting game?
Well, I am, but I changed banks. So, you know, I had to switch some things around to my bank, you know, so the websites didn't get paid. So I'm
Ooh,
only bringing back the one, but they were just duplicates of each other. And it's easier for people to remember, and it's on the truck. So, but yeah, Insane Asylum Podcast. It's got the links to my YouTube channel, Facebook page. It's where you can find me. I go live on Fridays usually when I have a guest. Uh, I've been kind of lazy about it lately. I got a PlayStation 5 for my birthday, so
cool.
I'm kind of playing around with it.
There you go.
So I'm waiting for this weather to get warmer.
It's not going to be in the 80s tomorrow. It's supposed to rain. Hopefully, it's going to cool off a little bit.
Well, I wish
Yeah,
it'd get there.
I guess what it should have done is got a shoebox, scooped you up some 85-degree air, and sent it to you.
Yeah, it's only gotten this 57.
Hey, that's as low as our lows at night.
Yeah. We still get in the 30s at night.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. It got I think it got up to 70 a couple of times last week. Didn't last long because of the rain, and it's just waiting to get out of here.
Yeah, I only live about 6.5 hours away from Bourbon Street.
Wow. Party all the time, huh?
Well, 6 or 7 hours. For the Paracon you saw advertised, Lee is going to be one of the guests, the owner of this network. And by the way, I think Gwen will take an application for a show if you wanted to be on this network.
Sure.
So you can talk to her. She's got some paperwork she needs filled out, and if you wanted to talk to Gwen. I don't know if Gwen's in here or not, or whether Sean is still producing the show. Who's there behind the scenes?
Maybe nobody.
It's Gwen.
It's Gwen.
And Sean.
I'll be right back. I gotta run out for a second. Get a soda.
Yeah, it's both of us.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
All righty.
Gwen, since we got you here, the guest stepped away for a minute. Can you tell us a little bit about the show you had before this one tonight?
Oh yes, Thomas Patrick. He is an ex-profiler, and he has a new show called Profiled. And it's very interesting because he kind of led it off with the history behind profiling, how it started, stuff like that. But he's going to go through different cases. He will have some guests, but sometimes he's just going to tell and answer questions and stuff like that. So it's a little different than anything we have, actually. We used to have a show that was about serial killers and stuff, but he needed to take a sabbatical, and we kind of and then he wanted to come back with his own thing, which he's been wanting to do that show for years, so it's a big deal. So you guys, Thursday night at 8:00, we're going to name Thursday something because we have Wicked Wednesday, Manic Monday, and Lone Wolf Sunday, Sean says.
And me by myself so far.
Yeah, so we're going to come up with something for you and Thomas on Thursdays. But yes, it's going to be really great, you guys. And if you missed it, I am going to try to replay it on Friday, just because I think it needs to be out there a little more so more people can see it, just in case they missed it. But yes, it's going to be great, you guys. It really is.
Sounds like fun. I'll be listening once in a while.
Good, please do. Even if you can't listen to the whole thing, pop in and say hey. If you listen and you can, say hi.
You usually catch. I try to catch on YouTube because we're trying to boost up the YouTube ratings so
Yes, we
people
are.
know you're there.
Yeah,
That's
sorry
hard to
guys,
do.
I'm not being nasty. The pollen is horrible here, and it's just it's
Uh,
aggravating. My nose
you're-
itching and everything.
Really quick, Gwen, can you tell Joe what he needs to do if he wanted to have a show on our network?
Just talk with me. Talk with me, even if it's not tonight, because I know I've got some stuff I got to do. Message me like maybe tomorrow, and I'll get you some details. And if you're interested, and we'll get together and see what's up, and see if we have a day that'll work for you.
Okay.
Yep. Just get with me. Get with me later, and so I can be clear headed. Because right now, I'll be real with you. I'm a little sniffly and tired.
We ain't got any rain down here. Pollen is horrible, and I cut my yard yesterday. Which
I
Joe,
wish
for Joe's
I had-
information,
What?
it's a 2 acre yard.
You mowed yesterday?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, my yard needs to be. Sean, if you want to come down for a couple of days and just take care of my property, and
I ain't even close to mowing yet. It's starting to turn green right now, just barely.
Joe, I think is ready to come down south. Me telling him it's been in the 80s the last 3 days here.
well, it is. I'm looking at it now. It's 67 now, and it's
That's
11,
still
17.
warmer than here.
Yeah, and let's see. Tomorrow, I'm looking at it now. It's supposed to be 82 tomorrow. It was about 80-ish today. Sunny, pretty. We're supposed to have rain Sunday. What in the world?
Yeah, you Sunday you get the rain that we're gonna have tomorrow.
Well, it's also no. I'm looking at it, and Saturday it has a. Oh no, I'm doing something outside Saturday, so it needs to stop.
Yeah, it's gonna be clear here for the weekend. We're
No,
gonna have a good weekend. Friday's a washout.
Friday and Saturday, it's supposed to be only in the 40s,
Wow.
48 and 47.
Joe, where are you located?
Possible rain on Saturday
Where are you located?
in Wisconsin.
You're in Wisconsin too. Okay, I was there a lot last year. I'll be back soon, actually.
Don't they have a beard?
Bearded Brothers Brawl, and I'm going to that. Yep, Sean's coming. I'm flying in for it.
What? A what?
Bearded. It's a
Bearded brawl.
brawl. But the bearded, okay, Sean, they're going to kill me. They have a company, but it's all the proceeds are going to veterans. I don't know which programs right offhand, but
that's going to be at Broadhead Manor, right?
Broadhead Manor. I love that place. It's like my home away from home. And
Joe, you been there? Broadhead Manor?
No, not yet.
Oh, I love it. Absolutely love it there.
That's not too far from you, should it?
It's only 2 hours and 15 minutes from here.
A couple hours, maybe.
It's in Broadhead, Wisconsin. It's probably an hour from Madison because I flew into Madison last time and went there.
Yeah, I'm from Madison originally, but I don't live there. I haven't lived in Madison in 10 years.
Yeah. Well, I like their airport. That's about all I can. And I stayed there in a hotel, and so that's all I can tell you about Madison, really. But we actually stayed in. I flew into Madison, and I stayed in. Oh my goodness! It's on the outskirts, and they called it something different. I don't remember, but yes, it is going to be in Madison. Well, yeah, I guess it was. I get a little confused because I'm not familiar with everything.
I'll start.
Well, hopefully, I'm going to a outside rock concert on Saturday, so the rain needs to hold off.
Yes.
Because I haven't got to do anything like fun outside yet with the weather and stuff. So,
well, Joe, I appreciate you coming on the show tonight. And Gwen, you can go ahead and go. Sean will take me out, won't he?
Yeah, well, I'm here. I've been in the background, but we just kind of hanging out, chit-chatting. So.
Okay.
But yes, I will let him take you out. I'm gonna just pop in the back. There you go, Sean.
I was looking for a card because I was at a Paracon. When was it? I don't know. It was before the winter hit last year, and the guy gave me this card because of my beard and stuff. And
it was probably these guys.
And I was looking for the card and I can't find it, but I've got a whole mess of cards from those things.
Yeah, I do too.
You know, I never know where they, you know, I have to, people go and recognize me, see, because of the hat.
Yeah.
So when I get out, I see people, well, now he'll recognize me because we've been on this, it didn't take, unfortunately. Took me 5 years to get this guy as a guest.
Oh.
I get him as a guest. We have a great show, and it doesn't take. It's not on YouTube or Facebook or nowhere.
Oh,
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and come to find out, it was not even my fault. It was the StreamYard or Emux or whatever I was using. Oh, it's our fault. And it's like they couldn't even get it back or find it. And it's like, you know how hard it was to get this guy? Because he's like a very famous author from Wisconsin.
oh wow.
You know, especially when it comes to paranormal world.
Oh, wow.
He's also been on TV quite a bit. And every time I go to Chicago to this one Paracon, especially the first time, because he didn't recognize me right away, but now he sees the hat and he's like, hey, come over here. I want to talk to you, you know. Every single time I go down there. And it's like, damn it, now I got to go down there this year and tell him, well, the show didn't take. And,
Oh,
you know,
man.
we got to try it again.
Mm.
Yeah, these guys are called the Bearded Brothers.
Yeah, I think that's what it might be. I'll have to look for that card.
You're going to have to get it to Broadhead for one of the Paracons he has there.
They have events a good bit, actually. And
But
they just opened up. But yeah, this it's going to be on. I'm looking for the exact dates because, oh my goodness.
Well, I'm going to the one in Fond du Lac. That's May 9th.
Yeah, there is one. My friend Christina, well, she's actually on the network. She's going to be involved in that. It's June the 5th is what we're going to. June the 5th.
I'll be in Chicago.
Well,
I
it
think
says
that's
no.
right
Wait a
around the
minute.
time the Chicago Paracon is.
This says the 5th, but I really
Somebody
believe,
got a big dog.
yeah,
Yeah.
Sean does.
It's Guardian.
What kind of dog?
He's a great Burmese.
Oh, that's right. You said that earlier.
Okay, sorry, it's June the 6th. June the 6th. But yeah.
All right. Well, Joe, like I said, thank you for coming on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Been a fun show.
Anytime.
Yeah, we'll be talking to you. If you got something you want to say, just send me a messenger and we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Okay.
And get together with Gwen by messenger,
Please.
and she'll see. She can squeeze you in. You said you used to do your show on Fridays, right?
Yeah, I set that up because I'm part of, like, Nick Moulet.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
All right. Now, Nick Moulet is president of Things Network in Illinois.
Right.
I'm president of Things Network in Wisconsin. So I air on there. I also do Fear Fans on that also on Tuesday nights. But that's not my podcast. I'm a guest co-host.
Gotcha.
Okay.
You know, and I only show up if I've watched the movie that we talk about. I'm a horror fan, so.
Oh yeah.
So we talk about horror movies, classic horror movies, and stuff like that. So.
I like a lot of horror movies.
Gwen, do we have a show where they talk about the horror movies?
Twisted Tales, like Wednesday night, 9:30. Jeremy Cotter. He does all kinds of stuff, but he loves horror movies.
Yeah.
He's very, very. We were actually talking about horror movies last night on the show that I do with Nathaniel because Jeremy was a guest.
Well, I used to own, back in the day, I used to own a video store. I had a video rental store and an arcade, and not like you guys might think. But I had like a pool table, pinball machine, a couple of video games in a back room because I was situated between two high schools
Oh,
in a little strip mall. I was doing good until Blockbuster moved in 3 blocks away.
yeah. I used
About
to
3
work at a
months later.
smaller movie store myself, and then Blockbuster came in and business, but we couldn't beat their
No,
deals.
you can't beat their depth. Here's a proven fact that nobody knows unless you were in the video business. In the distributors, if I wanted a copy of, say, well, anyway, recent new release movie on VHS, because that was the time,
Yep.
video stores
Right.
were. So on VHS, that copy of that movie would cost the video store $65 and up
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
for that movie. Now, Blockbuster, what they did, they bought in bulk. They
Right.
bought for all the stores in the same district. So Madison would have one location. They'd buy all the movies for them. So they'd buy hundreds and hundreds of copies. So they'd get that $65 down to about $20.
Yep.
A copy.
And you can't compete with that.
And you can't compete with that. Not as a mom and pop store. No way.
Mhm.
Yeah, when I used to buy all my videos from a video store after they'd rent them out for the period of time, and they'd go to Walmart and actually buy them from Walmart, like 10, 15 copies, rent them for the time, get their money out of them, and then I turn around and buy them for $5 a piece afterwards.
Yeah, that's kind of what I did. But Walmart didn't have their video thing back then. I had to go to Woodman's grocery store, which is basically just a Wisconsin thing, because they started here. But they had their own video business, and then their two owners, or the two managers of the two different Woodmans or whatever, got together and created Doorstep Video. And then later Blockbuster bought them out.
Yeah.
Blockbuster bought out a lot of the mom and pop stores.
Oh yeah.
And they just turned to crap after that.
It did, because you couldn't get stuff and all that. But
Well, you walk in, you go and say, "Hey, what's a good movie?" And the guy behind the counter is like,
No clue.
then you got a clue. You could say, "What's a good comedy?" Same answer every time you walked into a Blockbuster. When you walked into my store, I'd know your name and have
That's
your
how we
account
did.
up on my computer the minute you walked in the door. I'd have because I was watching movies constantly, so I'd have a good recommendation for you,
Yep.
or at least a half a dozen of them.
Yes.
Depending on the, if you're looking for comedy, action, or horror movies or whatnot. But yeah, they didn't have the personal,
Right.
feel of a mom and pop store.
Of course not. They're corporate.
Yeah.
And it showed.
Yeah.
And they hired people who knew Blockbuster but didn't know movies.
Right.
For the mom and pop stores, it was easy to figure out how that worked, and you got the time to know movies.
Yeah.
And see, I owned my own store for about a year and a half or so, and then later down the road, it was about 5 years later, I ended up with the leukemia, right? And so after it was about 97, 98, I was released by the doctors so that I could go back to work. And I'm like, well, I can't go back doing security because my legs got, I got chemo-induced neuropathy in my legs.
Oh.
So they tend to get a lot of pain in them once in a while if I'm standing too long or walking too long or something. So security was out. And I went to Blockbuster. Hell, I'm qualified. I managed a chain of video stores for, 3.5 years before I owned my own store and stuff like this. Oh, you're too overqualified. We can't pay you enough. That's what I got told by Blockbuster.
Oh, wow.
I said, I'm not hiring I'm not applying to be management. I'm applying. I don't care what you pay me. I just need something to do. Oh, we'd have to put you in management and we can't pay you enough. It's like,
Corporate.
Oh,
I've
well.
never been told that before, that I was too overqualified for a job until that day.
I got told that by the Columbus, Georgia affiliate of Coca-Cola.
You know, I worked.
I can make a joke out of the Coke thing. You know that, right?
You know, I worked in security. I was well sought after by all the security companies in Madison because I worked for the best, Pinkerton. I was not, you know, that plaque I showed you, that was also says on it that it had like, what is that it had? CSO next after my name, which means that I was certified security officer. I was certified by Pinkerton, but I was also had supervisor training and all of that because when I left, I kept my sergeant's badge because I was a sergeant. I still wear my sergeant's stripes on my leather coat, you know, because I earned them. But I was so good at what I did that it got out, and every security outfit wanted to hire me. You know, I was like well sought after, and I always had a security job before I got the leukemia. And it's like I even turned one down because they wanted me to be armed in this, you know, low income neighborhood. And it's like, you know, I don't want to be armed. I says I'll get more respect for people if I don't carry the gun. You know. And they said, nope, you can't do that. I said, well, then I can't work for you. You know, because I didn't believe in carrying guns. As a security officer, you don't need them. You know, especially if, you know, when I was working as a uniformed security or bouncer in a bar, all you had to do was treat them like they were people, not a bunch of drunks. You know, and 9 times out of 10, the person would give his keys up to me, and so I give him the bartender and call him a cab home. You know, or they, you know, I'd take them outside and they'd cool off, and it's like, you really don't want me to call the cops just because you got a disagreement with your buddy. You know, I was able to de-escalate it without having a firearm. I could do that in the neighborhood just as well as a bar. You know.
Big deal. Well, guys, I hate to end it, but it's been 2 hours, and I know lots of us have other stuff we got to do too. So I'm gonna tell you good night, Joe, and
I have a date with a meatloaf.
Oh, nice.
That sounds good.
So, Joe, it's been fun. We'll be talking to you. And talk with Gwen about on Messenger. And if you got something to say to me, say it by Messenger. You can reach me easiest that way.
Yeah, I got to get a hold of Greg.
Oh, yeah. Greg will like that.
Yeah, you can meet up with Greg at Paracon you're going to. Greg's still a great guy. You know him as well as I do.
Yeah.
He's very cool. All right. You have a good night, Joe. I'm going to pull you down, okay?
Have a good one.
Good night, Joe.
Well, that was cool.
That was a fun show. And, of course, he mentioned Dale Kaczmarek, and that's back in my sphere when I was in Chicago.
Yep.
So it's fun talking to some of the older guys that's investigated, you know, the Wisconsin, Chicago area.
I enjoyed you and Greg also when you guys were together. That was cool.
Yeah. By the way, next week I have Dark Hollow Paranormal.
Okay. Where are they from?
You know, I don't remember.
I'm gonna look it up.
Look it up.
I will.
And I'm probably gonna be. I'll have to borrow Gail's that she bought for New Orleans. I don't have to get her cat leashes because this is a paranormal group. It's not gonna be one person. It's gonna be 4 or 5 people, and I'll be herding cats during the whole show.
I herd cats all the time. So welcome to the club.
I've had about 8 or 9 people on my show before.
Yeah, you can only have 10 screens.
Yeah.
You can have 10 screens.
Mhm.
Well, as comment to what you just said, Gwen, I've only got one word to say. Meow.
So funny. Jesus. Oh my goodness, you're so
He's got something strong in that tea he's drinking.
I think maybe so also, yes.
All right, go ahead and take us out, but play the little video that says New Orleans Paracons, the video that I come up with some jazz music instead of that rock, and I don't change, the picture doesn't change.
New Orleans Paracon.
So,
All right, here we go.
See everybody next week, and then I'll put my exit up here while we're playing that.
Thank you. Here we go.
Whoops. All right, go ahead and take us out with. Thanks for watching the show, everybody. Paranormal never sleeps.